Greetings and welcome to Painting with Art for Truth. I am Will Parody, and today we are going to be exploring the wonderful things that you can do with mixing complementary colors. We're going to talk a little bit about what complementary colors are, how they can be mixed and blended and to create all kinds of very useful colors for any type of thing that you want to paint, whether it be abstract or realistic. It's an absolutely fantastic way of understanding color and a great use of being able to mix a few basic colors into a wide array of pretty much anything you want. I'd like to emphasize that I'm using acrylic paints for those of you who are used to oil. The principles are the same, but those of you who are following along, we will be using acrylic. So that's a water-based paint. It doesn't have the oils, the paint thinner necessary and whatnot, so it's a little bit cleaner. And that's what we're going to be using. The colors aren't always as bright and voracious, I guess you could say, as some oil paints, but they can be, especially as you layer them. And for our exercise today, it'll show us perfectly well what a lot of mixing these colors can do. So if you are joining us, we are using acrylic paints, and I use an ice cube tray, as you can see, sometimes as my palette. And we'll be starting off with red, yellow, blue, green, purple, and orange. So without further ado, let's get started. All right, so we're going to start off here. I'm going to talk a little bit about what complementary colors are and show you what they are, and then how we can mix them and get all kinds of cool stuff. It's a continuation of our first lesson, but it'll be a much more expansive look to what mixing complements can do. So we're going to start off, first of all, with some reds, some basic red, and I've got a few different kinds of colors here, but we're going to start with the basic red. What I'll do here in this corner is I'm going to make a little bit of a, just to explain, a little bit of a rudimentary color wheel, if you will. So we have three primary colors to start things off. I'll show you this. I'll take a quick break, or a quick break from the colors. So I've got this thing of water here where I keep my brushes. What I will do to clean a brush is I'll bang it in the bottom a little like this to rub it out some, and then bang it against the sides like that, and then wipe some extra water off like that, and there you go. I might wipe some on my shirt or clothing. Don't do that unless you want your clothing to be covered with paint. It doesn't really come off. So here we've got red, and then we've got since we're starting with red, then we'll do some yellow. Red, yellow, we'll put yellow in this corner here. It's a nice yellow. And then after yellow, the third primary color would be blue. So red, yellow, and blue. All right, so you get the idea with those colors. And then, so again, here we have primary colors. The three basic colors that which you can mix all the other colors in theory. So red, blue, and yellow. So when you mix these colors together, red and yellow, for example, you get orange. So we'll put some orange right there. And when you mix blue and yellow, you get green. So we're going to throw some green right in here. And you may have guessed, but what happens if you mix red, that's this one here, and blue, you get purple, as it were. Purple or violet. Violet if it's a little more red, purple if it's a little bit more blue. That's one way of looking at it. It's how I like to look at it. So here we have purple. You can see underneath the white paper the different hues you can get by just painting a bit thinner or thicker. So but there we go. We have a basic color wheel with the primary red, yellow, and blue colors and secondary colors, orange, green, and purple. And they're secondary because they're mixed from the primary. They're the second colors to come. So there we go. We have our 6 basic colors to start off. And then from here you can mix red, orange, orange, yellow, and just keep going and going, all these different colors. But I made them this way and arranged them to show that if we do, let's say, do a bit of a line between these colors, like that, they're almost right across from each other, right? these two almost right across from each other, and here just right across from each other. So what these colors are, the ones that are, you know, across from each other like that, are called the complementary colors. And they basically neutralize each other. If you mix them together, you'll get these grays and browns, and some really neat colors. And that's what we're going to do today. Also, too, it can help to really bring colors into the background. If you're, for example, painting with a lot of greens and you want to mix a little bit of red into the green, what it will do is we'll make the green a little bit more dull, a little bit more subdued, so it looks like it can be in the distance. If you're painting a bunch of trees and you want some to be far away and some close, you'll add some red, some complements to the green so that it gets a little bit more gray and dull and it looks like it's more in the background. And we'll talk about those sorts of things. So when we mix these colors together, we get these different colors. So we're going to start with mixing the complements of red and green together. So I'm going to do this as much as I can on the surface here. Doesn't matter where. You just do some of that red and then some of this green. The last lesson, we mixed all of our own colors. We mixed red and yellow to get orange, and we used that orange. Here and so on. Here I'm using green basically right out of the tube. But that's okay. There's so many different kinds of green. So now you can see it's a brown already. I'm going to add some more green. That's a lot of green. So this is looking more like what a tree or a bush or something could look like. These types of colors for in the shadows or in the distance. But as you can see, you're already getting a very different type of green than you are from this one. You see how much bolder? This is very beautiful color. This one that's mixed with red. It's very, very nice. It's rich, can be very useful. But you see how this plain green sticks right up on top of it. It's very bold next to it. And so this is a great way in which you can have your green trees, for example, or green grass be of a bolder color in the front and this more subdued color in the back. And then as we can even get even further here, you can see there's a little bit more red. How even like this is a lot sharper on this, at least a little bit. You can see the subtle differences there. Going to mix a little bit more red. And we can see it continues to get more dark and more subdued, and the green is a lot less green, and now it's kind of more brown. What happens if we add a little bit of white to this to see what kind of color we get? That is a nice color. So again, it's a real subtle, it's a greenish gray. But you've definitely got some gray in there. It can be a great color for stones, a great color for rocks. How many other words can I say to mean the same thing? Great for water, you know, like mixed with a little water. Look at that. It almost looks like a river, right? Maybe a little bit muddy. We add some highlights here and there, but there's could be a water scene, right? Just from this wonderful color right here. Mixing a little bit of red and green together. And then in this case, a little bit of white. So we'll add a little bit more white here. And you can see they can make really nice leaf colors here. If you want to bring highlights or whatnot out if you're drawing leaves, and we'll do lessons about that, still life or landscapes and such, adding a little bit of yellow is nice to bring a little bit of boldness out. White will not always bring the bold color out. It'll just lighten it and make it more pale. So sometimes you want to add a little yellow to bring out a bolder color. So now we have a nice little, another plant type color we can use. And we'll just mix that in a little more and see what happens. Now we're going to use a slightly different type of red and a slightly different type of green. So I'm going to use this. Let's see, we're going to start with this nice darker green here. See how it's darker than this one? They're both bold colors, but one's darker. And then we'll do a little bit of a red that's somewhat more orange, I think, a little bit. But it's still, yeah, you can see it a little bit there, but it's another strong red. But you can already see, because the colors are just slightly different, it looks a bit different than the ones we have over here. It's a real interesting brown. It almost looks purple. Look at that if I'm mixing some red and green, because the green is very dark and very cool. It has a fair amount of blue in it. So that's interesting. We're going to add a little bit more of that green, or a lot more as the case may be. And you see right now I'm blending right on the palette, or on the canvas, which happens to be paper at this point. But you can do that, especially like, let's say you're painting a big grassy scene. Mix your colors on there, or the sky. I do that all the time with blue and white. I'll just mix my colors right there on the canvas and or paper, depending on what I'm doing. So there's another cool color. See how it's different from this other gray? Similar value, but slightly different hues. Real neat. What happens if we add some white to this one here? Oh yeah, look at that. That's a cool gray. That's a neat gray, I should say. It's kind of a green gray. But again, you start adding some of this to this and blend it in. You can have, again, more watercolors. There's good sky and cloud colors in here. It's great, even just in an abstract way, to have a bunch of gray colors together. It's going to be real soothing. So look at that, different colors, the different grays and colors we're making. We're going to try some of this. We're going to blend it in with our already kind of reddish maroon brown here. See, look at that kind of a gray. Another beautiful color, almost a brick color, light brick, but like way in the distance. Again, these colors are really good for in the background on some things, or some shadows, or the various elements of life that are brown or gray. So what happens then if we mix a different green again? So now we're going to do a green that's a lot lighter. Put some of that there. And we're going to mix some of our regular red. There's really not a big difference in our two reds. Subtle, it's there. But when you're looking straight at them. So we're going to use our regular red here, which is a real strong color. I should have known that would happen. You can barely even see the green mixed in. But it does bring the red back a little bit. You can see the difference between the two colors. Oh, that's neat. You can see that. So we add a little bit of that light green and we have a slightly duller red. It's still a very useful color. I mean, apples and, strawberries, things in the distance. Just as an example, different flowers, brick, etc. There's so many different usefulnesses. Is that a word? For this color. So we're going to add a little bit more green up in here, huh? And we have a nice, real earthy green here. A real nice greenish brown. Good mud color, good tree bark color. There's all kinds of, there's some ground in front of our water here. Why not? And a little bit. In fact, we're going to make that a little bit more. There in the back, so on. So you can mix the different colors together, the different hues we've made from the different greens, and see what happens. Real neat combination. So we're going to add a lot more green in here. We're just going to we take a little piece of what we've done here, a little piece of this color, and add it to another brush full of the pure color. And that's a good way of getting a nice mix with knowing that it's going to be lighter than your last one. Knowing you're not going to overdo it. So look at that. What a great green that is. Forests. And then now you add some of the plain, nice light green to it. You can put in highlights and you can start to see where you can start getting foliage and different ideas, the lights and the shadows, and you can see how bold that green is on top. Well, if we don't blend it too much, that is. So we'll add a little bit of the different red here. Maybe too much. Let's try pulling that back. Again, these reds are really strong. So sometimes you only want to take a small amount of the red or your darker color to mix with your lighter color. So you can see some subtle differences there. Definitely, again, a real nice brownish, earthy color. Useful for all kinds of things. Plus, it's just it's a pretty kind of a solid color. Goes really nice in an abstract design. You can see that, how the white, oh yeah, it brings out the light of the green, almost the yellow of it some. You can see the brown. It's really a tan almost now. Look how different it looks between the white and this. It's the same color. I just added a little bit of white. That's so cool. So again, you see how this can be a real useful color. Sandy beach or whatever you want, and so on and so forth. Not all color can be bold or should be bold. If you have all bold colors, everything just looks like a rainbow and it's real bright. And it has its place to do paintings that are all bold colors like this, but there's something about having these subtleties, the way that we can make a nice picture. So there's some examples of what we have done with red and green. Now, let us try the next set of complementary colors, which is blue and orange. Take some of this orange, we'll go right over here. Use a fair, in fact, we're going to do a couple spots. I'm going to start with our blue, our regular blue, the primary blue. We'll mix that in. I remember when I was first learning this technique from my high school art teacher, Mr. Stampone. I really loved the blue and the orange. It was my favorite gray to use. I used it a lot. It's almost purple. Look at that. What a beautiful color. What a great, solid, wonderful brown that is. I'm going to add a little white. Blue and orange. Look how neat that is. Oh, looks like the state of Maine almost. Okay, let's not have that. Again, it's almost a grayish purple. Now, we add a little bit more blue. We'll add some to the corner here. Our white's still there. That's all right. You can see it cools right out. No pun intended. See the difference? It goes from being more purple to definitely a bit of a more gray. And just a little bit more. And it starts to become almost a blue-gray, but you can see that orange is still working very well in there, keeping things brought back and a little bit more neutralized. Oh, what a beautiful color. Again, you can use these for water and sky. You can use them just as decorative elements. You found in clothing. They're found everywhere, really, in shadows of so many things that are lighter colored. So, or in the shading of things that are, so that's a neat gray. Now we got a little bit more orange, and you can tell brightens it up a little bit, but we still have this wonderful gray color. It's really neat. We're going to add a little bit more orange to our first one here. And orange, once it gets darker, almost becomes brown immediately, you could say, but it's neat. Add a little bit more of that blue, keep it a little bit more on the orange side than our other ones, but look at that. What a nice, almost delicious color. I love browns, candy kite colors, chocolate caramels, etc. There's something that's inviting about them. What a nice, so you're not just trying to get gray like the color of a color of a steel or something like that. You want all of these different variations in browns. When I do this exercise with people in my classes, sometimes they get frustrated that they don't find these nice gray colors right away. There's one. You're not supposed to. It's about mixing and finding the variations that happen so you can understand more about color and use each of these colors in your work. It's not about this has to be the right color or that. No. Color is a changing phenomenon and it has to be discovered. I really believe that. So this is a great way in order to understand what color mixing does and some of its subtleties, especially, again, these complementary colors, the ones that are across from each other. So there's a nice blue. You can see how bold that is on top of this orange. And we're going to mix that with some of our orange here. It's going to be a little bit more green almost, but still this nice gray. That's really cool. That's really beautiful. And again, we've got some nice colors for a dark sea or a dark sky, dark clouds. We start adding some white. Look at that. We almost have a little ocean scene right here, a little water scene, just by making some brush strokes back and forth. See, we bring in some of this orange here and it brings it back some. Then we take some of our blue again, mix in, and then you can see you start to get more of a sense of foreground and background even, just because of the subtle differences in the gray tones in the back and the bolder colors in the front. So anyway, there's an idea. Let's add a slightly different orange to this on this side. This is a light orange, almost a fluorescent orange. Look at the neat color. It really lightens things up a lot and really brings out a certain gray element from that blue. Really big time. Look how beautiful that gray is. Really good colors. Let's try some of this lighter orange with some of this darker blue. Oh, what a cool color. I love color. I love it. I mean, it's just awesome. It's great to just see what happens. With every stroke you mix the colors with, something changes. Everything. And it's just so neat to see. It's almost purple here, orange and blue. But we've got our grayish color here. We've got a little green in there. That's all right. We'll see how that brings a little more grayness to it. But again, really nice colors. All these great colors for shadowing clouds, or just having, you know, or shadowing water, or the various shades of white and light purples and blues and stuff that you see in clothing or flowers. There's all kinds of lovely colors here you can use for flowers, certain flowers. Some flowers are very white, but how do you put shadow in white? Here's one way to have shadow in white. In fact, see, we'll just put some pure white on top. And you can start seeing how maybe you can see it's abstract, but where you could have a flower coming out here that has different shadings under the leaves and this and that. So really pretty stuff. Really neat to see what we can do with these various blues. I'm going to try this kind of interesting smelt blue, they say. We're going to do a mix of our fluorescent orange and our regular orange. We're going to need more of that color. Blue. Again, similar to this color, but not quite the same. Not quite the same. There's a good chunk. If we can blend that in, that might be hard, actually. That happens with acrylics sometimes. They do harden up. I use them. I try to use the chips and chunks in my other work, in my thicker paintings. So, again, look at what we can get. We're just adding different blues and oranges together. All these really neat colors. Here's a pretty good steely gray. We add some white to it. We can definitely see it. Brings that out. Not totally cool. You can still feel its warmth, but it's feeling pretty solid as a gray. Add a little bit of blue to it here on this side and see the difference. Again, so now it's kind of a cool gray. You can see the difference here. A little bit bolder with that little extra blue, and a little bit brought back with a little bit more orange. So anyways, look at this great variety of colors that we have created with just mixing a few things together. Basically 2 pairs of colors together. Get all these colors, all these complements. And look at that. Look at the great things you can do mixing in these colors. Look at the interesting, again, slightly different variations of blue and orange and a little bit white, but the same principle. And look how different they are. It's almost like green and purple together, but it's blue and orange. So really neat stuff. So speaking of purple, time to mix yellow and purple to get our grays here. So we'll add this purple, a couple spots. Start with our first yellow. Our yellows are pretty similar, but a little different. And we'll just start up here. Remember, you need just a little bit of darker color to a lot of your lighter color to start off. You can see it's almost just a type of a green here. We're going to definitely need some more purple, so we're going to add a little bit in here and mix it in. The purple I'm using is not the brand of color and the type of purple I'm using, it's not super steadfast. It's not like as strong a color even as the yellow. So you might need a little bit more purple to the yellow than normal because the paint is just it's a little bit weak. But look how beautiful. Again, you're adding some purple and yellow and you're getting some real interesting types of yellow greens, green browns. Again, look, you can highlight. They can add highlights on some of these darker colors. You know, almost looks like they were meant for each other. Little areas like that really bring out some of the highlights if you're trying to do bushes and There's a lot of shade in behind. So this is a real good color for that. Let's add yet more purple. I'm going to do a nice chunk of it here. We're not too worried. Oh, what a luscious brown. Look at this. Lovely, lovely, lovely color. We'll put it next to some of our other browns here and see how different it is. It's still kind of yellow and green. And if you use different yellows, different purples, or you mix them yourselves from some of your color, your results will be different, but that's okay. All of our results should be very different on this. No one should look the same with either the colors they mix or the patterns that they're making. And so here at the top, I'm going to put a little bit more purple because that yellow is really strong compared to this purple. So again, neat brown colors. Throw some white in there and see what's happening. Oh, see? Again, a nice good sandy color, building colors. Any number of skin tone colors all throughout here. You could paint every person in the universe with these colors. Well, that we know of anyways. There's a lot of other living entities and stuff beyond our own universe, but that's a topic for another time. So anyways, really interesting. Different kinds of brownish grays here. We're going to add a little bit of this. I'm curious what's going to happen if we add some light. Well, that's really strong. Well, we can see adding this particular light blue is definitely a stronger color than both the purple and white. So it really shows up, but it makes it, look at just the variations. It's really neat types of different greens. Great colors for the ocean right here. Inside the waves or out in the distance. So feel free to add. You mix your complements, but you can still add other colors to it. You know, like I'm going to add even a little bit of blue here to this gray, or this brownish green color we made with the purple and yellow. Remember, we mix purple. We get purple by mixing blue and red. So essentially, you're just adding a little bit of the cool version part of the purple to your purple color. It's not like you're just adding blue. You're just changing the purple a little bit in essence. But look at added some blue into this to bring out the coolness because this is very brown. So if I've got something that's real kind of brownish, reddish brown, warm brown, and I want it to be cooler or more gray than brown, then I'll add some blue or some cooler color to it if it's real warm. And look at that. Look at the gray we got out of this. Beautiful color. Beautiful colors. And you can see how dark some of these are. They're almost like blacks. You don't need to use black as a shadow color or a mixing color to darken things. It can be used as its own color. It mixes wonderful with yellow to get greens and stuff. But another thing that my high school art teacher taught us is don't just jump right to black. Mix your complementary colors to get your shadows. It's much more connected to the original colors you're using, much more organic, and you can get so much with it. So, and I'll show you. We're going to mix, there's a little fun thing I like to do here sometimes. We're going to mix some with purple color, some blue, okay? I'm just going to put it there for now. And then some green, some of this darker green. And if I'm going to mix all this together, you'll see the color. It's a lot of green I put in here. The color will get real dark here. There, it's starting to really get darker than all the other colors. Add some more blue. And once this dries, it's going to look almost black. And then add some purple. So it's not just a blue-green. You start to get the gray element in there. So yeah, you got starting getting some colors that are real dark. Look at that. And beautiful. Not just black, right? They've got this such a nice cool nature to them. Literally cool because it's the cool colors. We're going to talk about that in the next lesson, actually. We're going to spend some time on the warms and cools. But I think complements is a very important thing, and color mixing is a very important thing to do and to understand. So many elements of color, so many elements. See how, oh, look how neat it is when I add it to some of this stuff. And you can do that. See, you can see what pops up, see what comes back. Just really, this is a great, great bold color. Let's add some white to it. Just, you know, it's very much a, well, it's not black, but it's a great dark. It's a good dark to use. You can add, you know, a little bit more purple even maybe to make it a little darker. It depends on you know, your brands of color. But it's really, look at that. Oh yeah, again, we could use something like a river. That's a beautiful, you know, once you lighten it up, I mean, it's a real beautiful color. You can see the difference between the dark and the light there, and then how it blends. Now we're going to add a little yellow to this. It's almost purplish, and just see what happens, or bluish, and then we're going to get a nice type of a green. And now we're just done adding a few colors. Extra colors just to kind of see what happens, to continue to make, you know, to see what happens. We experiment with our mud and different things. What happens if I put orange up in here? See, and then you start mixing all these other really neat colors from the complements and the mixing, but then you just add other colors and you can get all these neat variations of things that are really awesome. Anyways, now we're just messing around, having fun. I'm just trying to look at this more like a painting, and how can we, I might even work on, who knows. But you look how neat this is in and of itself. It's the way the colors are bouncing and moving. All we did was mix these colors together, and look at all these colors. The darks, the lights, the grays, the browns, the varying changes of some beautiful bold colors, some of the subtle and not so subtle subjugation of boldness. Yeah, I don't like the sound of that. The blending of bold into beauty with some gray and subdued colors. That's really neat. I'm going to add a little bit more of this fluorescent orange. I really just like the way the gray is coming out on this. Keep some of that orange there. It really bolds it up. But once you see all the mix, what a beautiful gray that is. Very useful watercolors. Again, sky colors, especially you got a sunset, sunrise, both on the water or in the sky. Really nice little useful colors there. I'm going to add a little dark. See that dark contrast. And so on and so forth. A little bit of red. Warm it up some. Very interesting. Very interesting. Let's see what happens with a little white on this. So it's really about experimenting around, playing with your colors, and seeing the different things that you can do. So again, we mixed these colors and we got all of these. So there you have it. Here's a bit of a color experiment where we just took a few of these colors, the complementary colors, again, which are red and green, respectively. There's 3 pairs, red and green, purple, yellow and purple, orange and blue. So complementary colors are those 3 pairs. And by mixing them, red and green respectively, blue and orange respectively, purple and yellow respectively, we got all these varieties of grays, browns, greens, and different colors. Sky colors, earth colors, plant colors, abstract colors, whatever you'd like. But look how neat that is, and the way they bounce. All of this is done by mixing colors. You don't have to buy a billion tubes of paint. You can, but you don't have to. You can get all kinds of wonderful colors from these basic colors. So that was our lesson for today on complementary colors. We'll be back on Wednesday with another lesson. We're going to talk about warm and cool colors, I think, is what we'll do for Wednesday. And we'll keep on going, and we'll be building. Before long, we'll be doing a painting together. So thanks once again for your eyes, ears, and time. Keep making art. Have it in your life in some way, shape, or form. It is so important now more than ever. Please share these with your families and friends if you enjoy these videos. Yes, like, subscribe, and all that. It certainly helps. But most importantly, please keep making art. Thank you very much.